Good day, VC. How is everyone? A little bit of a late night video here for me as I record this. Don't do a lot of late night ones these days, but here we are. It's Sunday night. I've been working hard all day packing material objects orders. Thank you. There's like boxes and supplies all around me. So that is happening. Those are going out. But I wanted to do a video that's a little bit of a precursor to my sort of mid-year update, which will be on my list of 25 records I put as a priority for the year. I guess I started doing this in 2023. We'll see if I keep doing it, but I did put 25 records on a list that I plan to make a good run for in 2025. So that update will come probably at the end of June, but basically 6 months into the year. However, these are records that could have easily been on that list, but weren't. Either they were off list, they were sort of like, I wasn't thinking about them, or I wasn't specifically out looking for these day in, day out. So it's a little bit of misleading on the title. Of course, I was looking for these records, but they kind of found me in a way, sort of anyways. Didn't intend to, but prices were good, conditions were right, money was there. So here they are, 6 megawatts I wasn't looking for. We're listening to Synthesis is the group, the project. We're listening to 6x6 on the Chiaroscuro label. Never been reissued. This is a pretty cheap record. I got this as a Chris Cole forward. He sort of sent out this as an eBay auction to look at for a good price. It's not a terribly expensive record, maybe a $20 to $25 record. Their second record does go for a little more money. David Murray's on that one. But this is a group. I think that one's maybe like a $50 record. I don't have that, but this was a good eBay find. Thank you, Chris. This features Arthur Blythe, Olu Dara, Richard Dunbar, Ken Hudson, and Rassan on drums. Courtney Winter on tenor sax as well. Nice record. I'm listening to this one quite a bit. Synthesis from 1977 on the Chiaroscuro label. So we're going to listen to that as we discuss these megawatts. So this first one, this is one of those I didn't think I'd own. And this one's notorious for having very bad off-gassing. I think Stunty, looking online, it feels like he was the one really talking about this. I thought maybe it was more well-known, but indeed, all the copies I had seen, which hasn't been that many, did talk about an off-gassing. And a copy I remember seeing at WFME 2024 specifically mentioned that, and the surface didn't look good. And I think that copy's still up. But someone put on Discogs a very nice copy of this for the right price, like much lower than what I saw at FMU, much lower than anywhere I ever saw elsewhere. I had a bootleg of this. I've since sold that on. Terry Riley Reed Streams. This is from 1966. The photographer Warner Jepson on this one. A pretty infamous and legendary record. Two pieces essentially from Terry Riley at a young age. This is coming off his time doing the with Lawton Young's Theater of Eternal Music, and Dorian Reed Streams. Well, it says the titles. The Untitled Organ and Dorian Reeds are the two titles, one per side. This copy, no, this wasn't a cheap record. No, but man, no off-gassing, no haze, and it plays pretty clean. I'm going to put a sample in. I'm going to put a sample of this in, as I will with every record here. Boy, was I happy that it was pretty quiet surface. And this is a gorgeous, I think, repetitive drone. He's known for the time lag accumulator. That's sort of his idea. Where you'll play a signal through two tape machines through the course of time, and playing with pitch and speed, or I should say playing with speed, it mutates, or it sort of changes the texture and it creates a beautiful effect. Of course, Fripp and Eno use this to great effect on No Pussyfooting. So, Reed Streams was performed and recorded November 4th and 5th in my studio in New York City. Untitled Organ is a current section of the keyboard studies that were begun in San Francisco in 1964 and is recorded as performed. So, typo there. Dorian Reed's is also a live direct recording, but includes the use of tape recorders as an extension of live performance. It was composed and performed for this cutting. The record is so nice. Now you might see there's some neat tape that's along, and that was disclosed by the seller. You can see, I almost felt like this was part of the sleeve design, but it almost looks like a moon here. That is a sticker for some reason. Someone put a sticker on there, and that is wonderful, like perfectly encapsulated in the laminate, I guess. It's very neat. So like when I saw this, I was like, this is beautiful. However, yeah, there is tape on it, but it's just one of those things that like it just looks so presentable. Like I don't mind it at all. So yeah, this is on the Mass Art label. There's 3 releases on that label, which are all pretty rare. Run by Philip Orenstein, I believe it is. But this is just a classic and in many ways a document and sort of like stake in the ground for drone and minimalism by the master, who's still with us at age, 90 something. Terry Reed. It's not Terry Reed. Terry, of course, we know Terry Reed. Terry Riley's Reed Streams. It was a tough price to pay, but I mean, as soon as I got it and I heard it, I was like, okay, this is what it should cost, and I'm sure this could have cost way more. So it was on the lower end of what this goes for. I hate discussing prices, most of you do, but an all-time record to keep, if you ask me. Next, one I sold a reissue of, and dead stock copies turned up. I think Alex was the first one to sort of, Diamond Marimba, mention this, and it is the Brazilian legendary record by Jocy de Oliveira from 1981, Brazilian avant-garde composer. This is Estórias para Voz. It's essentially experimentation with the human voice. The human voice is sort of what's leading the proceedings here. It's essentially a journey, very much a roller coaster ride type journey for voice, and it's her voice essentially leading through this. But it sort of hits little periods of lulls where there's different percussion and African influence and synthesizers, and it's a really wild ride. This is a dead stock. Now this came from Mr. Bongo, who was in touch with her, I think. Is it her estate? I actually have to insert I don't remember if she's with us or not. But they had artist copies, dead stock copies, originals from 1981 on the, what label was it? Fermata Industria Fonografica. FIF. Now I had the Bloom reissue. The Bloom label is sort of dedicated to current and reissue composers. And I really liked the presentation of that. It was all red. It had like a red sort of like fake OB or whatever, but it was a really nice presentation. Actually didn't want to get rid of that, but I did. And this is one I definitely hope to bring back. She essentially introduced electronic and experimental electroacoustic to Brazil. She's a legend. She did many recordings before this, which are of a different style, but this was sort of her sort of opus for voice and experimentation. I guess along with Ania Lockwood and Paulino Rivero, she contributed to the 1968 publication Music of the Avant-Garde. She was a very important figure, going back to the late 60s, even though this came out in 1981. If you're aware, Brazil was in a dictatorship throughout a lot of those years, and this was released sort of at the tail end of that, and so it was like basically discarded and ignored, but very important over time. And there's piano, viola, celestia, synths. It's a really worldwide sort of like fusion of sound here from Jocy, and the voice, her voice, in many ways is what leads it. It's very much a journey, as I said, and just really special, very unique. This next one I certainly wasn't looking for. In fact, I almost swore off getting any originals because they're from Africa, and you know, it's just, to me, not necessarily worth it. But this one, for this price, and I was getting something else from this seller, I'm like, well, here's my opportunity to own this record. It's one of my 2 favorite Zamrock records, and I was like okay with not buying Zamrock originals. So now I have one. Maybe will I get the other one that is my favorite Zamrock record? I don't know. Certainly not looking for it, but the price for this, and yeah, the condition sucks, but the price was fair, and it's a decent playing copy of Lazy Bones. We Intend to Cause Havoc. We know about this one really well. 1975, their most famous record, and their best record, with their best songs, best production, best everything, on the Zambezi label. Probably the most popular Zamrock band, and yeah, it's rough ass shit right here, but playing pretty dang well, I have to say. It's definitely some crackle, and quite a bit of it. But as everyone loves to say, including me, doesn't overpower the music. Gary Chanda, the singer, and essentially the only one left in the band, has made new music. I haven't heard it. But what I thought was cool is I think they recorded it in the same studio in Lusaka, I guess, with a lot of the same instruments, which I thought was pretty amazing. But I do have like all their records in reissue, including this one. And as I said, even if I came across these for the right price or the right condition, I don't think it would have to be like in excellent condition, like real excellent condition, but that would cost a fortune, and you know, it's not going to happen. And I think for me, I'm cool with my reissues, but I'm always interested in seeing what's out there. You know how it is. I know Dylan has been really able to upgrade his originals, you know, over the last bunch of years to some nice copies. So that's Which Lazy Bones, 1975 on the Zambezi label. Cool to have at least one Zamrock original. Are you going, leaving me alone? Come and get me out of this place. 'Cause only me, the wilderness, and had no choice. And I'm feeling cold while lost. Looked around and saw there was certainly one I wasn't looking for. I didn't think it would even be attainable. But offer was made through a seller I've bought with quite a bit, and yeah, I bundled a couple of records and it worked out well. And this is a very rare folk rock record, maybe not his most notorious, we'll say. Bill Fay, self-titled album, his first album from 1970. This is the stereo copy. Mono is like incredibly rare. This is not a easy to find record either. Bill Fay, just a singer-songwriter who over the years grew in notoriety and became so well loved. A lot of that had to do with sort of Wilco. Wilco was a big champion of a few of his songs, including Jeff Tweedy. But he made these 2 albums for Decca, or the experimental imprint Nova. And they're not experimental, they're sort of progressive folk with orchestration and sort of bit of down sort of tempo. This one is sort of more about like issues of the time, the war, racial inequality. a big production on this. There's some really beautiful songs, including Be Not So Fearful, which is one of his signature songs and one of the ones I know Wilco has played and other bands have played. But just this is one I wouldn't have even tried to look for because the price would have been crazy. But this came to me in a good time. Yeah, he had some singles, and I think it was just one or two singles in '67, and those flopped, and this flopped, and then Time of Last Persecution, which came out in 1971, which is probably his most in-demand record of the two, also flopped. But one of the songs on here, Sing Us a Song, Sing Us One of Your Songs, May, has like a military sort of feel and pulse to it. And I just love it. He's sort of doing like a spoken word over it almost. Yeah, this is a gorgeous album. I love his voice. It's so frail and fragile, but really has a lot of texture and is lovely. You know, Bill Fay passed, was it this year or last year, but recently. And he made, I think, 3 records, one of them being produced by Jeff Tweedy, which very much put him back in the public eye, or he was never in the public eye in the 70s. These records sunk. He got to take a winner's lap, or, you know, that expression. But a UK and English singer-songwriter of high note and high regard. Bill Fay's self-titled record. Yeah. Yikes. It was a tough one to crack, tough one to swallow, but you know, here we are. We went for it. Bill Fay.
For lasting relations with a green fly, spider, oh my God. Believe ones you know so well. Sing us one of your songs, mate. You know we love you well.
All right, I'm going to take off the 6x6 and we're going to put on a different record, and it's going to be an Acid Archives record, and we are going to edit this out. It's going to be part of this video, and then we're going to edit it, and it's going to become its own very own Acid Archives entry as a separate video. So let's get to that.
I would fool around that now. I would let you down. Somehow you gotta find something to do. Lay down. Where have you been this lazy night? Lay down. Yes, it's a thrill to reunite. Go back to your dream.
Archives Diaries, and I have a big one for you here. Pretty rare record. It came up for sale in Europe, and I went for it, even though it's an American release and actually originates from like 2 hours from me. Talking about Bill Jerpe, or Jerpe. Here it is. This is an original pressing from 1970 on the Shortwheel label. Here we go. Bill Jerpe, or Herpy. Maybe that's why they changed it. You know, he had a contract with Columbia Records, 2 singles, including a picture sleeve, and for those singles, his first name had an H in front of it. Maybe that's what his born name was, but he took the H out, maybe because he didn't want to be known as Herpy. But he privately released this one. It was not licensed by Columbia Records, but pretty interesting that those are Columbia releases. 2 different singles with a picture sleeve, as I said, released here in the US, I think Canada and Germany. I think it was Epic, sorry, not Columbia. So yeah, it did have some European distribution, but those singles flopped, and he recorded this on his own. I think he was either out of Utica or recorded in Utica, which is about 2 hours from me. It's really a kind of rural folk rock, maybe a little bit of psych, maybe just in its sort of ideas and some of the sort of things going on sort of like within the production. But it's a lovely singer-songwriter record, maybe in the style of Dylan. Reissue is really easy to come by. I just got rid of it, but I didn't sell it previously. I just got really reissued when I got this, and I had to get this from France, I think it was. Nice VG plus. So it does come with the lyric insert too. 1970 Shortwheel. I think it's just lyrics. I don't know if there's any other information about him on here. Produced by Bill Jerpe, engineer Ray Meltzer. Cover photograph Bob O'Donnell. Back drawing Ashion. Did have a publisher. This album may be ordered directly from the publisher by sending $5. Seems like a lot for 1970. To Shortwheel, P.O. Box, blah blah blah. New Paltz, New York. So New Paltz is a little closer to the New York City, the Hudson Valley, but he was out of Utica. Very much singer-songwriter, as you're hearing. Very band, you could hear it there. Loner, though, that's what I like about it. Definitely a loner vibe as you get into more of the songs on this record. A little like Meek Stevens out of Wales, but recorded in a motel room, I guess. I had written down. So, an interesting record. This is in the Acid Archives. We're going to get into that in a second. Yeah, not a ton of, this was reissued by Soft Estate, which doesn't do a lot of reissues. But I've always loved this one, and it doesn't tend to get a ton of play. But I never thought I'd find it. If I did, I figured I'd actually find it locally because he's from like a few hours away. There's a guy who does a lot of picking and bringing a lot of collections for Angry Mom, who's from Utica, and I always asked him every time, you found that Bill Jerpe yet? And he's like, nope, keep looking though. Well, I found it, just not in Utica. So yeah, it's a really cool folk rock record, and it does qualify as an Acid Archives release or Acid Archives inclusion. So let's find her under J. There's L. Let's see. I actually didn't read this entry yet either, so here we go. Pretty decent paragraph. They were listed as a rarity 1. Bill Jerpe, 1970 Shortwheel. From Utica, New York. This is from Aaron Malinsky. Jerpe's only album is an odd duck in the singer-songwriter world. Unlike most of the genre, it is clearly rock rather than folk. Yeah. Nonetheless, despite electric arrangements, the production heavily reverb vocals mixed so high that the instruments sound almost muffled, keeps these songs from reaching their full rock potential. Jerpe is obviously influenced by Dylan. The voice is Dylan circa Nashville Skyline, but I could see this album appealing to Velvet Underground or Bowie fans. Maybe this song. It doesn't sound like either of them, but has a certain underground vibe. The songs aren't exactly hooky, but have enough weird moments with pianos, slide guitars, and falsetto vocals to make them memorable. Despite the low-budget production, this music is quite colorful. And all of this is to the mildly eerie cover photos and artwork on this album. And all of this to the mildly eerie cover photos and artwork. And this album is as distinctive as anything in the genre. The songwriting is decent to very good, and this neat record will appeal to a wide variety of quirky tastes. Jerpe had some earlier 45s with his name spelled Jerpe with an H, as Aaron Malinsky. So yeah, really cool folk rock record. Not a ton more to say about it. He would never do anything else after this, as far as I know. But a really cool one and quite rare. So got this for a nice price in Europe, in fact. That's it. Self-titled Bill Jerpe, 1970. Acid Archives Diaries. Alright, I got one more record from this Mega Wants video that I wasn't looking for. Let's check it out. So this pile, and the 6th record in this 6 titles of Mega Wants I wasn't looking for. And this is one I also had a reissue of that I just sold as last year as part of my reissue. Purging. I'm talking about 1972's Saat by Emtidi. This is the original pressing on Pilz. Of the 2 records they did, this duo, this is the less rare one. First one is maybe not as good, but way rarer. But this is on the oh so beautiful Pilz label. Who doesn't love that label with the beautiful mushroom? What is it again? I'll have to put it in. I forget the name of that mushroom. It's the most common mushroom, basically. But the Pilz label, around for 1971, 1972. A label I kind of want to collect. Some of these titles are pretty damn rare, and I don't love everyone. But the Popol Vuh on this run, I need Hosanna Mantra still. That's on Pilz, and just a beautiful aesthetic, krautrock. But this one's not exactly a krautrock record. It is, but it's actually a duo. And as I said, 1972. The label's only around for those 2 years, by the way, but recorded in February 72 and produced by Dieter Dierks, who was a pretty well-known German producer at the time. He plays mellotron on this record as well, apparently. And a beautiful cover. A very nice shape, this laminated cover too. Lovely gatefold, still get the crackle. Now, all original tunes. Dieter Dierks is producing, as I said. Rolf Ulrich Kaiser is one of the founders of Pilz, who's credited here. And but the duo, along with Dierks, is just this duo of a Canadian, Dolly Holmes, who does a lot of the vocals, if not all of them, I think, and the German, Mike Hirschfeld. And they play a variety of things each, and there's no drumming on this. Hirschfeld plays all the guitars, synthesizers, celestial, I don't know what that is, flute, vibraphone, this is all in German. And Dolly Holmes is playing organs, Hammond, electric pianos, mellotron, spinet piano, so mostly the pianos, but and singing. She's not credited as a singer, but she's definitely the vocalist, but it's not, some of it's instrumental. And this is just beautiful folk cosmic sort of space music, essentially. Sometimes the vocals get a little too angelic for me, but not too bad way. It doesn't take away from everything else. There's a lot of space to this record. I mean, it's just gorgeous stuff. And you know, again, I had to get this from Europe, but the price was just, I couldn't refuse it. This was a Discogs purchase, actually. It came up as in my my focused list, or in my want lister. And yeah, it just was the right price. I sort of think I even made an offer, and that's what sort of made it like this is happening. But yeah, this Pilz label just is a treasure. So many cool records. I mean, you have, of course, the Popol Vuh, the Brossel Machine is on Pilz, the McChurch Sound Room, Desiree, Virus, and that great flute and voice record, which I do have. So I think I only have about 3, maybe 4 originals on Pilz, so I'm working on that. But yeah, just a bit of a British folk influence on this, just so floaty and gorgeous, really takes you home. But like, there's some pretty interesting sort of out there parts too. Yeah, very cosmic record, you might say. So yeah, they didn't. This was the second record. They tried to make a third record with more musicians. I think even Klaus Weiss, the other Klaus Weiss, who was not affiliated with Popol Vuh, the percussionist. But that didn't happen, that third record. I think everyone ended up... I think Dolly Holmes left. I think they tried to make a third record without her, and it flopped, or it didn't even happen, didn't even come to fruition. And those members ended up forming that band Niagara, which was like a jazz funk record. You know the record with the boob on the cover. And a pretty cool record. I don't have that. But Emtidi Saat. Very nice. Super nice. It's maybe not... It technically gets thrown in as a krautrock record because it's on Pilz, but it is a Canadian and German. It's maybe not at the absolute top echelon of krautrock, but it's absolutely worth getting if you're love the Pilz label and you love, German Kosmisch. Emtidi Saat. Alright, so those are the 6 megawatts I wasn't looking for. As I said, a precursor to an update that I have for June, late June. An updated list to my 25. I've got a good deal. I got a pretty good deal. I got of the list. I didn't think I'd get as many as I have, so I'll share those with you in a bunch of weeks. I'll probably get another video or 2 out before I go on tour with the band, and there'll be certainly some record stores getting hit on that tour, so stay tuned for all that stuff. And Let me know what you thought of these. Sorry to be such a, flexing so much muscle here today, showing these records. Sometimes it feels like a little obnoxious, but that's what we do. That's what we do on this thing called the vinyl community.